Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so I don't see anyone in here yet, but that's fine. We can go ahead and get started. You can catch up on it later if you need to. It's been a while since I've been live. Wow, wow. Let me see here. So yesterday I kicked off the trial in Utah of Kouri Richins. Kouri it's in Summit County, Utah, and I used Gemini, the chatbot Gemini, to summarize this. So I want to kind of get through it as quick as I can because I know there's other folks that are going live and stuff like that, but because I've got a lot of stuff to do also. Since we've last met with each other on here, I have acquired a job. I do CDS services, in-home CDS services. Waiting on my good cause waiver to hurry up and get in so I can start receiving payments for it. But that's a huge accomplishment for me, though, just to be able to apply, considering that my past has not been great and all. But hey, everybody makes bad decisions in life and things like that. But I'll have another live to go over all that stuff because there's some other things I want to talk to you guys about. But this case here, the reason I decided to go live on it is because it deals with fentanyl. Many of you know, many of you don't know. November 30th of last year, my niece, Rebecca Nicole Purvis, she passed away from overdose of fentanyl after she had been clean for 2.5 years. So anything that has to do with fentanyl here lately, I've been trying to cover and raise awareness for it and things like that. And there's going to be a Walk for Lives coming up in my area real soon on June 13th, I believe, that I will be participating in honor of her and all the other ones that we've lost due to this catastrophic mass destructive drug. Okay, so back to the case at hand. The murder trial for Kouri Richins began on Monday, February 23rd, 2026 in Summit County, Utah. The day was marked by starkly different portrayals of the defendant during opening statements and emotional testimony from the victim's sister. The opening statements, the prosecution case, money, power, and a fresh start, it says. Prosecutor Brad Bloodworth argued that Kouri Richins was a money-hungry killer who was drowning in over $4.5 million in debt. The motive, the prosecution states, is, hold on a second real quick. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up so I can see if anyone comes in, I can see you guys or whatever. Okay. So, the motive by the prosecution, they believe the state alleges she killed her husband, Eric Richins, to inherit his $4 million estate and claim nearly $2 million in life insurance policies she had secretly opened in his name. Prosecutors claim she slipped 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl into a Moscow Mule cocktail. They also highlighted a failed attempt a month earlier on Valentine's Day using a lace sandwich. Says I have somebody in here. I can't see you. If you come into the chat, please say hi so I can see you because I can't really see you from my screen I'm on right now. Not only, was the motive for, money or whatever, there was a text messages that were shown between Kouri and a man named Robert Josh Grossman, including her dreams of leaving Eric and marrying Grossman once she had millions. Jurors saw her internet searches, which included luxury prisons for the rich, America, and can cops force you to do a lie detector test? Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, the last thing anyone needs to do when they are even considering, which I pray to God none of you ever do, don't go to Google and search. Don't do that because you're going to get caught up faster than Cooter has oats. So let's see here. The defense's case in their opening statement, tried to portray Kouri as a grieving widow. The defense attorney, Catherine Nestor, urged jurors to see a different story, portraying Kouri as being a loving wife, unfairly targeted by a narrative dominated by headlines. And I will reiterate right here, real quick. Well, I mean, we'll just wait. We'll just hold off on that. You'll see. There's Bob. Hey, Burden. Yeah, and those of you, when Burden goes live, y'all go check her out. I love Burden. She is awesome. She is great. She is wonderful. I didn't know she was going to stream live today, though, or else I wouldn't have. So, she's a wonderful person, and she is one of the main reasons why I still am attempting to try to do live streams, because she's a great motivation for me. She's never met her before in my life, never, but I feel like I've known her all my life. So much love to you, Burden. And if she gets live before I get done, y'all go check her out, and I'll be right there behind y'all when I get done. So let's see here. The defense. The 911 call. The defense played the recording of Kouri's 911 call where she was heard sobbing hysterically. Sounds Nestor described as a wife becoming a widow. The alternative cause of death, Nestor suggested Eric may have accidentally overdosed. She noted he had Lyme disease, a dependency on painkillers, and often used THC gummies. The defense challenged the credibility of the State Star witness, housekeeper Carmen Lauber, arguing she was granted immunity to lie about selling fentanyl to Kouri. Now, I will tell you guys right here, whenever the testimony, I missed some of it yesterday, a lot of it, actually, to be honest. I kind of, and if you know me, you know that I'm always with the prosecution side about getting these people who are allegedly guilty or whatever. You know, I get them. Thank you, Burden. I'm kind of on the fence now, y'all. After hearing all this stuff and seeing the reactions and everything of the sister-in-law and then the brother-in-law and some other things, which we'll get to that in a moment. But the key testimony and evidence from Kouri Richins Vincent, which is Eric's sister, she gave emotional testimony recalling that on the night of Eric's death, Kouri appeared well put together with her hair done up, which struck her as unusual. She also testified that Eric was deeply aware of the dangers of drugs because their mother was a drug counselor. Now, I know myself personally. There's been times in my life where whenever I get dressed up for bed, it depends on if I have a significant somebody in my life or whatever, I'll do myself up before I go to bed. I mean, now I just look like a old hog for real. But I thought in the body cam footage that we seen that Kouri appeared to be like she had been in bed. It wasn't a sweatsuit. It was a pajama suit. You could clearly tell it looked like a flannel pajama suit. And her hair, I mean, some people can go to bed with their hair done up and it not move a bit. Me, I mean, I have been able to do that before. I just didn't move in my sleep. But the body camera footage showed that, to me, is what I seen. But the video from the night of the death showed Kouri pacing and distraught, telling deputies that Eric didn't just die in his sleep, and suggesting he might have taken a TH gummy for chest pain. And other things that she had pointed out in the body cam footage was that he had some injections the day before, some allergy shot injections. He had some other things going on. So that's kind of what put me on the fence. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. But I could see, and especially after losing some people I love dearly over the past year, I could see them, and hearing all the things I've heard about these vaccinations and shots and everything else, I could see that being the cause of death, to be honest. But I'm still on the fence. I ain't said don't hang her yet. I ain't went that route. But on day one of the trial, which was yesterday, the roles of the housekeeper and the medical examiner were central to the prosecution's opening narrative, though the defense has already begun aggressive efforts to undermine their significance. The housekeeper, Carmen Lauber. Carmen Lauber is the prosecution's star witness, and her expected testimony is the primary link connecting Kouri to the murder weapon, fentanyl. The allegation is that prosecutors told the jury that Lauber will testify she sold Kouri between 30 and 90 blue-green fentanyl pills on multiple occasions, including just days before Eric's death. The motive for the testimony says that Lauber has been granted immunity from prosecution in exchange for cooperation. During opening statements, defense attorney Catherine Nestor labeled Lauber a liar who recanted her story, which she did recant her story. The defense pointed to a sworn affidavit from Lauber's own drug dealer, Robert Crozier, who now claims he only sold her OxyContin, not fentanyl, and that he was out of it and detoxing when he previously told police otherwise. And I can attest to people who take OxyContin. I had an uncle. My daughter, I believe, was 3 whenever my uncle, her great uncle, passed away from an OxyContin overdose. So that can happen also. While the medical examiner may not have taken the stand yet on day one, which they did today, well, no, not the evidence collection tech took the stand so far today. Their findings were a cornerstone of the prosecution's opening statement. The medical examiner determined Eric died from an oral ingestion of illicit fentanyl, not medical grade. The level of fentanyl in his blood was approximately 5 times the lethal dose. The prosecution used these findings to argue that such a massive dose could not have been an accidental party overdose, but was instead a calculated poisoning. The defense plans to use the autopsy's mention of Eric's history with painkillers and THC gummies to argue that he was a partier who may have sought out illicit drugs himself due to chronic pain from Lyme disease. And I will be the first to admit to you and tell you that it only takes one pill, and the amount of fentanyl, it's like 2 granules of salt, to be honest. 1 granule could kill you of fentanyl. And the way that people get these illicit pills today, you just get a pill from somebody or whatever, you never know what you're taking. So that's why it's very important to never take anything unless you know 100%. And I mean, not 100, 1,000%, you know what it is. One of the most heated points raised on day one was that no physical fentanyl was ever found in the Richins home. Defense argued that without the physical pills to test, the medical examiner's illicit fentanyl finding doesn't prove Kouri was the source, while the prosecution maintains that the lack of pills is simply proof that Kouri successfully disposed of the evidence. Lauber is the only person in this case who can put the drugs in Kouri's hands. Things we need to look for going forward are the blue pill description, whether her description of the pills matches a specific illicit fentanyl found in Eric's system. The immunity angle, expect the defense to grill her on exactly what she was promised by the state to ensure she doesn't face her own drug distribution charges. And the phone records, prosecutors will likely try to sync her testimony with the deleted text messages they claim to have recovered between her and Kouri. The science will be used to fight the accidental overdose theory. Key moments to watch for with the medical examiner are the ingestion method, the ME's testimony on whether the fentanyl was oral in a drink or if there's any evidence of it being taken in a pill gummy form, the lethal threshold, further detail on the 5 times lethal limit and how quickly that would have incapacitated a man of Eric's size, and then whether the examiner found remnants of the sandwich from the alleged Valentine's Day attempt or the Moscow Mule from the night he died. Let me see here. Now, fast forwarding to the family of Mr. Eric Richins, it was some of the most emotionally charged testimony we've seen so far, and it was pretty wild. Clint Benson is the husband of Eric's sister, Katie. He provided critical testimony regarding the immediate aftermath of Eric's death and Kouri's behavior. Clint testified that just hours after Eric was found dead, Kouri was already hosting people at the house and appeared to be celebrating the closing of a large real estate deal, the Midway Mansion. And then he recalled conversations where it became clear that Kouri was under immense financial pressure. He testified about the tension surrounding Eric's business and assets, noting that Kouri's focus seemed to be on the business side of things rather than the loss of her husband. Clint was a witness to the physical altercation between Kouri and Eric's sister Katie, also, which occurred 2 days after the death. He described Kouri's hatred and rage when she realized she had been cut out of Eric's will and trust, which culminated in Kouri. I want to stop right there for a second and just focus on a few things that I noticed from Clint's testimony. It was noted that they had security systems installed into the home and things like that. But one thing I do not get, now the children, the Richins children, they are not living there at that home. They've moved out of that home. And he kept saying, Clint Benson, the brother-in-law, kept stating that they would have to go back and pick up belongings for the children, like basically using the children's belongings or property at the home as alibi in a way. But one thing I noted was if the children were no longer living at the home, why did they have to keep going back to the home to remove some of the children's items? You would think that if the children and or anyone else was no longer living there, all of their belongings would be gone, right? Because he did make a comment that about a toys box or something in front of a window being moved, and he knew that the furniture had been moved. Why are they so focused on this house? That's one thing that kind of got me on the fence there whenever I started hearing his testimony, because it's like maybe maybe him and his sister had something. You never know in cases like this. And I've seen some crazy stuff in life, and you never know. But I know that Katie did not really care for Kouri, and one of the things I seen on the body cam when she first come in was she said, "Where's my boys?" Like, I mean, I would have been like, "Where's the babies? Where's the boys?" I would have been like, "Where's my boys?" Like they were her children. And then she's like, "Where's my brother?" That's understandable. I lost my brother several years ago, and yeah, it's hard when you lose a spouse, but I just too much closeness there for real. But anyway, Eric's father testified, and he was the first witness on the stand. And I about cried. I'm not going to lie, I just about cried watching his testimony, because he described Eric as a dedicated family man and a successful entrepreneur who was deeply involved in his children's lives. Testified about the shock of the phone call and the subsequent realization that Eric's death was not from natural causes. His testimony was used by the prosecution to humanize Eric and contrast his character with the defense's portrayal of him as a drug partier. This right here got me, for the simple fact that addiction is real, y'all. It is very real. There are so many people in the world that use that you wouldn't think use just because they have learned to become functioning addicts and functioning users. I did it for so long. It's unreal. But I finally realized, I got to get better. I can't keep doing this. I've got 2 grandbabies now. I have 2 grandsons. One's 3 and one's 2. And I have my relationship back with my daughter. And I have a son-in-law who just got pinned. He just got pinned again today. And the first of the month, I believe he will be a staff sergeant. And I'm so proud of him in the U.S. Army. So, yeah, it's you never know what someone is going through. So you need to overlook that they're an addict. Yeah, they might be an addict. Instead of casting judgment on them, love them. Reach out to them. Hey, is there anything I can do to help you? Do you need to go, because to be honest, with an addict, what they mostly want in life is to be wanted, to be loved, and to be cared about. That's mostly what they want. So they look for that in that drug that they're trying to seek, and they can't find it. All right, so there is a walk the dog letter. The prosecution frequently referenced this letter, Kouri wrote from jail addressed to her mother. In it, she allegedly instructed her mother to tell her brother, Ronnie Darden, to testify that Eric told him he got fentanyl from workers at a ranch in Mexico. The prosecution is using this to argue that Kouri was attempting to manufacture her brother's testimony to support her defense that Eric's death was an accidental overdose from Mexican drugs. And I did notice, though, that Kouri kept mentioning the THC gummies. I'm interested to hear more about the gummies once we get the medical examiner on the stand. Let's see here. The key witness recanting. I'm going to go back to that real quick. A significant development regarding a recanted statement involves Robert Crozier, who is the man as the drug dealer who supplied the housekeeper, Carmen Lauber. This recantation is a major pillar of the defense's strategy to eviscerate the prosecution's theory of how Kouri obtained the drugs. While the housekeeper, Carmen Lauber, remains a key state witness, the man she allegedly bought the drugs from has changed his story. The original claim was that Crozier initially told detectives in 2023 that he sold fentanyl to Carmen Lauber. In a sworn affidavit filed in late 2025, Crozier stated he actually sold her OxyContin, not fentanyl. Crozier claims that during this initial police interview, he was out of it and detoxing while in jail, and he does not remember saying it was fentanyl. Attorneys Wendy Lewis and Catherine Nestor argue that if Crozier didn't provide fentanyl to Lauber, then Lauber could not have provided fentanyl to Kouri, since no physical pills were ever recovered from the Richins home. The defense claims there is no forensic link tying Kouri to the specific drug that killed Eric. Yeah, so that's. Prosecutors have pushed back hard against this recantation, calling it not credible. They maintain that Crozier was a low-level street dealer who likely didn't know the exact composition of the pills he was selling, which most of them don't, as most street pills at that time were laced with fentanyl, and they still are. The housekeeper, Carmen Lauber, knew she was buying fentanyl, which is what matters to the chain of custody leading to Kouri. And I would like to know just how she knows the difference between these drugs. Just saying. Judge, we need a drug test on this lady, please. The toxicology report showing 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in Eric's system is the ultimate physical evidence that outweighs a dealer's changing memory. The revolving door of testimony has created a high-stakes credibility battle. The defense is using the recantation to suggest that the state is intimidating witnesses, alleging the investigators threatened to revoke Lauber's immunity if she didn't stick to the fentanyl narrative despite her dealer's news statement. Let me see here. I just said that. All right, hold on a second. All right, so why does this matter for the trial? It creates a forensic gap that the defense is hammering home. No physical evidence were ever found in the Richins home of fentanyl. If Crozier didn't sell fentanyl to the housekeeper, then the housekeeper couldn't have sold fentanyl to Kouri. The defense argues that the prosecution cannot place the murder weapon in Kouri's hands. They suggest Eric may have obtained the fentanyl himself from another source, pointing to his history of painkillers. Okay, so let me think here. The trial is currently in day 2. The relationship between the housekeeper, Carmen Lauber, and Eric's family members, Katie and Clint Benson, is defined by legal conflict and accusations of witness influencing. The Carmen Lauber was not a domestic, because I wanted to know if there was like any history between the housekeeper and the Bensons. And I got the link is Kouri's real estate business, that Carmen Lauber was not a domestic maid for the family home. She was primarily used by Kouri Richins as a housekeeper for residential real estate business. State theory, prosecutors allege Kouri used this professional relationship to solicit illegal drugs, paying Lauber approximately $900 for fentanyl pills on at least 2 separate occasions. The connection to Katie Benson, while Katie did not have a personal relationship with Lauber, she has become a central figure in the dispute over Lauber's testimony. The most direct tie between the housekeeper and the Bensons involved a motion filed by Kouri's defense team regarding the Eric Richins Living Trust, which is controlled by Katie Richins Benson. Kouri's attorneys have accused the family of have accused the family trust of paying prosecution witness, which, I mean, they paid, I think it was $100,000 to a private investigator, is what I heard yesterday on there from Clint Benson. The defense requested all financials records from the trust, specifically looking for payments. Excuse me. Payments made to individuals connected to the investigation. They have suggested that witnesses like Lauber might be motivated by financial incentives or legal protection immunity provided through the family's cooperation with the state. Kouri Richins Benson and her attorneys have withheld many of these records, arguing that Kouri has no legal rights to trust private financial data. Clint Benson, who is Eric's brother-in-law, has become a vocal presence in the hearings. Clint was one of the first to testify during the evidentiary hearings about the family's suspicions. The defense has used Clint's testimony to argue that the family, including Katie, pushed a poisoning narrative to investigators early on, which the defense claims led to police to target the housekeeper, Carmen Lauber, is a way to build a case against Kouri. I want them to summarize the trust document, and it says the trust document at the center of the trial is the Eric Richins Living Trust, which Eric secretly established and amended before his death to protect his assets and ensure they would go to his children and family rather than his wife, Kouri Richins. Eric amended the trust in November 2020, specifically to remove Kouri as a beneficiary. He reportedly told family and friends he did this because he feared Kouri may try to kill him for money. Eric named his sister, Kouri Richins Benson, as a successor trustee. That meant that upon his death, she not Carrie, had legal control over his business, C&E Rentals, their family home, and his personal assets. The trust was designed to provide for Eric's 3 young sons, ensuring their inheritance was maintained by his sister rather than Kouri. A major point of contention in the trial is how the trust interacts with the couple's prenuptial agreement. Kouri argues that according to the let's see here. Kouri argues that according to their prenup, the family home and Eric's business should have automatically transferred to her upon his death. The prosecutors argue that Kouri's discovery that she had been cut out of the trust and that Eric's sister now controlled the money was the primary motive for murder. When Kouri learned that Kouri Richins was the trustee and was moving to protect Eric's assets, a physical altercation occurred. Kouri allegedly punched Katie in the face during a dispute over who had the right to be in the family home, an incident that was documented in police reports and used as evidence of Kouri's. And let me reiterate real quick on this home. This home was bought to and sold to Eric Richins a year before him and Kouri were married. However, Kouri and him were together at the time, so they moved in this home. So it was their home, in my opinion, and they bought this home from none other than Katie and Clint Benson. Yes, that's right, the sister and the brother-in-law. The trust is currently the subject of a parallel civil lawsuit. The defense has recently filed motions to force the trust to turn over the financial records. So, because they're alleging that the family has used trust funds to pay or influence witnesses in the criminal trial. And Clint Benson testified yesterday that $100,000 was paid to a private investigator to dig up dirt on Kouri. So, there was a secret amendment in November 2020 on this trust where Eric removed Kouri as both the beneficiary and the person in charge of his estate. He named his sister as a successor, and he placed his business and the family home into the trust to ensure they would benefit his children, not Kouri. Based on the charging documents and trial testimony, the trust includes several specific points of contention. The intent was that Eric explicitly told his estate planner he was making these changes because he feared for his life and believed Kouri was trying to kill him for financial gain. The trust did not account for nearly $2 million in life insurance that Kouri had secretly taken out in Eric's name between 2015 and 2017. Eric was reportedly unaware of these policies when he wrote the trust. A prenuptial agreement stated Eric's business would go to Kouri if he died while they were married. However, Eric used the trust to circumvent this, leading to the current civil lawsuit where Kouri is fighting to invalidate the trust control over the business, and I'm still trying to get my hands on that trust, but it's going to be hard because it's kind of sort of sealed right now. That's so because it's a private family trust and part of an active criminal civil litigation, the court has only allowed specific exhibits to be shown to the jury. The defense is currently filing motions to see all of that. Let me see here. The defense is trying to use her legal team is primarily using a prenup overrides trust argument. They contend that the contract signed on their wedding day is a superior legal document that Eric could not unilaterally change. The specific legal arguments being used to break the trust control over the assets include the prenuptial priority agreement, unauthorized transfer of assets, witness influence, and dirty hands. Let me see here. All right, let me think. I think that's about all we want to talk to on that one. Let me see here. I don't really want to focus too much on the civil litigation case, though. So as of late February 2026, there's no record of full stay being officially granted for the entire civil dispute. However, the civil and criminal cases are effectively moving on two different tracks, which several illegal maneuvers keeping them tied together are the murder trial precedents and the trust control ruling. While a state often stops all legal activity, discovery has continued. Kouri's defense team recently filed a motion to compel financial records from the trust, accusing the trustee of using those funds to pay for witness testimony. Let me just get on down through here. That's about all I think I have for that. Yeah, that's about all that I got from yesterday. I do have a daily reminder set up for the trial to start each day, but I'm going to do my best to be up and at them at 9 a.m. every day during this trial, except for on Mondays. On Mondays, it will be a little bit later or it might be earlier because I have to work online at 9 o'clock a.m. every Monday with truthcourt.net. It's a great thing that I'm part of there. Anyway, that's about it. I've been watching some of the testimony today. The evidence tech is pretty comical, even though it's not comical. It's pretty comical testimony from her. She about messed up her whole testimony because she had, in my opinion, a flashback of her childhood. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you all tomorrow. Stay true, stay blessed, and remember this always. You are important, you are loved, and no matter what is going on, it's going to be all right eventually. So please, please, please don't ever give up. Please don't ever give up. That's really all I had to say. I'll get another live scheduled with you guys about my life updates. It's been hard on me, to be honest. The past year has, but I'm glad to be back. So y'all go check out my friend Burden. I'll drop her link, and y'all have a great day.